here today with my good friend Jacqueline Baker. Jacqueline Baker is a good friend of mine since high school, everyone. And what's your at on Instagram?
Magical Jax.
At Magical Jax.
Magical Jax.
Yes. Here with the golden tiara, okay? Anyway, Jacqueline just released a book, The Unexpected Leader. And there are some principles in here that I've been reading this book since it came out, and I'm almost done.
Which is crazy.
Because I don't read as much as at least long books. I take a long time to read long books. But anyway, this book is a great read, and it's a great quick read. And there are some principles here that I've come across that I wanted to sit down and talk to Jacqueline about. So Jacqueline, I'm going to refrain from calling you what I normally call you.
Because we're real friends in real life.
I'm having a hard time using Jacqueline so much. But I'm going to continue. I'm going to just start. Okay, so Jacqueline touched in the beginning of the book. She got very authentic with herself. And she shared some things about herself that even I read. And I was like, I didn't know that part. And I thought it was a very brave thing to do. So I kind of wanted to hear you talk a little bit on the importance of authenticity, especially in today's world where we see so many crafted social media profiles of perfection. And we just kind of really need to still know that we're authentic human beings.
Yeah. I'll say I didn't necessarily go into the book thinking, be authentic. I just went into it knowing that I had the opportunity to craft another tool to help people be better leaders. Mm-hmm. And I found, especially from writing my first book, that the best way to do that is to just be honest and to share as many personal stories as possible that I think other people can relate to. And I really do believe that my leadership journey, for me, although it felt rocky and not very sequential, I don't think that it's too far off from what a lot of other people go through in terms of determining what their best leadership path is, what their leadership style is, etc. And I wanted to be honest about some of the challenges that I felt like I was going through and figuring out like who I was as a leader. Mm-hmm. And so I think that authenticity didn't even necessarily show up in a way where I was like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write this book and I'm going to be authentic. But more so, let me just pour out as many personal stories and personal scenarios and real life situations that I was in that I think other people can relate to. And I think at the end of the day, that really does boil down to authenticity, but it wasn't like I sat down like, yep, gonna be authentic here. I think too, the question that you had around authenticity overall is so tricky right now. Mm-hmm. And because I think that like you and I, at least I speak for myself, I didn't grow up in a place of be authentic, right? It was more of a learn how to be authentic. And it's interesting seeing now the dynamic of young people that are asked or told be authentic out the gate. I wonder over time what that's going to look like. And I say that because I think that there has to be a barometer of what I'm sharing and what I'm not sharing, right? I think that there just has to be some level of, all right, I want to share, but you don't got to share everything.
Absolutely.
All the time. And so I don't necessarily think that there's one way that's better or more effective than the other in terms of the way that we or I was raised. It's just that I think that different people see authenticity in a different way. For me, it showed up in me trying to be helpful in building some connections between my readers and myself.
Yeah. Building connection with your readers, and that's kind of like the importance of belongingness, right? Mm-hmm. And you touched on that a little bit too when you were going into some childhood memories mm-hmm. of not feeling, not knowing if you really was belonging in the different societies that you were operating within. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very important that you went into going back into who you were mm-hmm. And sharing those stories authentically as they fit the need to share. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The belonging piece is really, really important because it's a matter of you seeing where you fit in, and you seeing yourself as a leader. I think a lot of people, and a lot of the conversations that I've had, people share with me that they don't know if they're a leader because no one's ever told them they're a leader. They never felt like a leader. They've never seen anyone that looks like them that's a leader, etc. So I think that all fits within the conversation around belonging. The reason why the book is laid out the way that it is from a leadership level standpoint is because I wanted to eradicate that thought around, am I a leader and where do I fit in? I really wanted to simplify the thought process for people who are just like, am I a leader? Am I not a leader? I don't dress like them. I don't look like them. I don't make that kind of money. I don't drive that kind of car. Well, listen, there are 4 levels to leadership. There's self-leadership. There's the leader of others. There's the leader of entities, organizations, communities, and then there's the leaders of movements.
Right.
We all qualify for self-leadership. Like, we are responsible for ourselves. And so I was very, very intentional with making sure that the principles and the frameworks that we laid out in the book really lent themselves to people feeling like, yeah, like I am a leader today. Like, I don't need permission for that. And so I really wanted to make belonging something that wasn't a question in people's mind, because we are all qualified to be self-leaders.
Let's talk a little bit about exploring self, because there are a number of areas in the book where you're addressing leadership and how you're finding your place in it. But in order to do so, you have to do some self-exploration. So let's talk about the importance of that piece.
Yeah, exploring self is essential, but before you explore self, you have to have this declaration. You have to say to yourself, yes, I am a leader. And be comfortable with knowing that you're not going to be perfect, because none of us are. No one is out here saying, oh, you're a leader, so now the only way that you're a leader is if you lead a gazillion people, or you have had a startup, or had thousands of people underneath you. Like, no one's saying that. Well, some people are saying that, but I'm saying no, that's not the way that it needs to be. The exploration of self is essential, because who you may have been at 16 or 17 is probably not who you are at 26 or 27. Who you are at 5 or 6 is probably not who you are at 10 or 11. Just by the nature of you just growing and being a human and creating relationships and being educated and having different experiences. And maybe not even being educated, like just purely just having different experiences. And so sometimes we have this notion, or we have this experience that was lodged in our mind that we went through. And because of whatever it is, we start to think, oh, I don't qualify to be a leader. Like, that thing happened. I went through a divorce. I went through a downsizing at my job. I had a bad breakup or a bad relationship, and oh, I'm not a leader. The exploration of self allows you to get re-familiar with yourself. There's a reason why in the book we say, discover, define, and refine the leader in you. Just this consistent, perpetual process, because we're growing each and every day. And so by giving yourself permission to explore yourself, by exploring your values, your qualities, giving yourself permission to take personality assessments, you're relearning about yourself. We get in autopilot mode and we sort of forget who we are. We forget, oh, I have a child. By nature of me having a child, I've had to delegate things out in the household. Oh, those delegation skills that I've acquired and that I've mastered at home, maybe I should take that skill set into the workplace.
Absolutely.
And so you have to remind yourself what you're capable of by reflecting, taking skills assessments. Many of us have taken personalysis, Myers-Briggs, all those things. But then also at its very foundation is to just explore your values overall, and to be clear about what your values are, where you stand on things, because you can do that independent of a workplace, independent of paying for another test, etc. But exploring yourself allows you to continually discover, define, and refine the leader within you.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to close. We're going to take a little sip of champagne.
Champagne.
This is how we do it.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Regular.
We're going to get into a heavy question. And a question. We're going to go a little personal, and then we're going to bring you back to the leadership lesson that was learned in a very personal situation. So last year, JTAB, that is Jacqueline, myself, Tiara, Andrea, our other good friend, and Brandy, other good friend. That's one little circle of girl crew, and we all went on a 40th birthday celebration vacation last September. We planned it. No, correction. Jacqueline did a lot of the planning. The vacation went off perfectly. Thank you to your planning. So I don't know if we have thanked you enough, but on behalf of all of JTAB and all of the girl circles or friend clubs that you are with, that you keep stuff going together, we all know Jackie keeps stuff going together. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So last year we had this trip planned. We get our money together. We going about to ball out, flying first class. We going to get renting our own spot. We got butler service. They doing everything. They catering us.
It was good.
We doing good. Right before though we go, your father passed away.
Yep.
And of course we were on board to, hey, what do we need to do? Do we need to reschedule? Jacqueline said, no, we're going to keep going. I have figured out when we're going to do the, memorial services, and they're not going to, now I've changed these flights and blah, 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 blah. Jackie got the planning. Jacqueline, correction. Jacqueline and Baker got to planning. Now there was a point though, because when that happened, it was a death that of course was unexpected, like many deaths, and very personal and close. And in that time of you mourning and still celebrating the 40th birthday, or all of our 40th birthdays, you were being like called to lead in a space where it was challenging to do so. And first of all, I commend you for still sticking through with everything how you did. You did it with grace all the way through. But I want you to talk about those times in which we are called to lead in a time which we may not want to absolutely lead at that time.
Yeah. There are a couple factors with that specific situation with my dad. I think that there were also opportunities for me to take a breath and think, and take a breath and recognize like the situation that I was in, versus going into autopilot mode. So a lot of people know that the first company that I started was a wedding and event production business back in my 20s. And I talk about it quite a bit because it's amazing how your past career shapes a lot of who you are. I ran that business for 8 years with my good friend Zeman. And because of those years that we ran that business, I can construct, plan, produce an event, an initiative, something like a funeral, a wedding, like very quickly in my mind. Like I just have that ability to just produce quickly. And although most people don't necessarily look at a funeral as an event, in many capacities it has the same elements, right? And so all that to say, by the time I flew home to plan my dad's funeral, I'd already had all the components in my mind that needed to happen, because my mind just goes into production mode very quickly. Well, that's great, and sometimes it's not. And the reason why it's not is because I know that I also have a very upfront, I don't want to say forceful personality, but I have a personality that comes across like everything's all together. Maybe nobody needs the help kind of thing, right? I know that is just a part of how I'm engineered. Well, for me, I had to be intentional with saying, all right, here's a plan, and not necessarily I'm the leader, but here's the plan. I needed to leave space for people to follow. I needed to leave space for other people to have input. I need to leave space for me to have space to express emotions that I'm not normally open to. Like I'm not an incredulously emotional person. Like you've probably seen a couple times in our whole relationship of me crying. I actually don't know if you have at all.
2 tears maybe.
Yeah, maybe 2 tears, maybe three. Right? Expressing emotion just isn't a natural or it's not the default for me. But when my father passed away, I was dealing with emotions that I could not control. And so I needed to leave space to allow those tears to flow.
Absolutely.
Right. And something that is uncomfortable for me, quite frankly. I don't like crying. It actually just hurts to cry. But in that scenario, I had to continuously tell myself, like, yep, you have a plan and you could probably produce this whole thing on your own. But there are other people who want to be involved, and there is space for other people to follow, even if you were seeing yourself as the leader in this. I learned that lesson about following. I've learned it and relearned it many times. I was reminded of it just about a year ago. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of my dad's passing, actually on the actual day of the launch, which is very interesting. Not intentionally, just sort of kind of the cards fell in that way. I also was reminded of the importance of that lesson when I left corporate. So I left AARP on February 25th earlier this year. And in the months of me preparing to leave, I needed to take a step back and let my team lead. I needed to let them experience me not being at the forefront of things. Not that I thought that they weren't confident enough to run things, but I needed to fully let them understand and see, like, I respect being your leader. I'm hopeful that I've been a good leader. I will continue to guide you as long as I'm here, but you guys got this. And so I needed to once again take a follower role. And between my dad passing in September and me leaving corporate, that happened in a very short period of time. And so I was learning how to be a leader through following, because there's space to both be a leader, like a formal leader, and be out front and be the one riling everybody and getting everybody to go, but there's also space to be a follower as well. And it's important for you to recognize when you need to do each one. The other reason why it's important is because if you're trying to grow in your journey, if you are trying to grow a business or trying to grow in your career or building a team or even running a family, you probably need people. And you also need space for yourself. You need space for you to grow personally and professionally. And if you are consistently being the one who's out front, being the one that's doing everything, if you're always being the taskmaster, there is no space for you to learn new things or have self-care, right? And so leaving space to delegate so other people can grow in their leadership journey is important as well, because then you have space. I mean, think about it, even if you're a parent. I know you're a parent here. I think you do a good job of not being helicopter mom, right? It's like, okay, like I'm going to guide my kids and I'm going to show them what's right, but I'm also going to let them lead in the airport, right? Which I know you've done before. Because if it's always like, hey kids, I'm going to show you specifically everything, they're going to be relying on you over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
And you're never going to have space to go on a girls trip because you always got to be there with the kids. And so I relearned that lesson. I can't say that I'm not relearning that lesson over and over again, because I'm also very aware of my personality. I am a doer. I like to do. I like the feeling of doing. I like busyness. It is how I'm engineered.
Yes, you do.
I do. I'm very clear, like that is how I am. And so that's my default. And I think that it's a quality that serves me well. But I also like spending time with people. I like the other sides that aren't doey as well. And so because by default I'm the doer, I have to go out of my way to make space for other people to have space in my life to do. Because if not, I'll be doing all the tasks and I'll never have space to learn or do or grow. And so that was my lesson, my continuous lesson in leading and following, and how, unfortunately, the death of my father really made me stop and realize that it's something that I'm going to have to continue to learn and teach and remind myself of. And it's a journey.
It is a journey. It's a journey. I can't believe that's been a year.
It's been a year.
And so much has happened.
So much.
In a year. Like, this book was written in that year.
In that year.
Like, she wrote a whole book. Like,
a whole year.
So much growth. We are always growing. You touched on growth, and that is a very important topic near and dear to me. I'm always like trying to encourage, or I am always encouraging myself to grow, encouraging my children to grow in a profitable way. Anyway, I think we're gonna kind of close it out. We're gonna have a cheers to the unexpected leader, Jacqueline Baker. I am so super proud of you, girlfriend, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. This book has a lot of gems that I believe anyone can use. Honestly, a lot of gems. I was like, oh, she hitting right there. I was literally like,
she hitting.
I was literally saying that when I was reading. Oh, it's getting so nice. She hitting right there. Like, that was literally me last night. That was my Sunday night at 11 p.m. No club. The Unexpected Leader book is where I was at.
No club.
No club.
When are we even doing that anymore?
It's mostly
We'll go to a dance party every now and then, but we ain't.
it's mostly daytime things.
Right, or house things.
Our house things, which are the best things. The best things. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
cheers to you, girlfriend,
Cheers,
and
girlfriend.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, girlfriend.
And we can close out